Hey there, we're the Westlaw Pirates and welcome to the show. We're here to share our thoughts on Northwestern athletics and college sports with thoughts and analysis from the visceral to the statistical. We run our tailgate with the red pirate flag flying high above as we give no quarter, especially the fourth. I'm Sam Walter.
I'm John Lacombe, baby.
And I'm Eric Scousbill. That was very nice, boys. That was a very nice way to start the season.
So great. Just an incredible way to start the season. We have so much to get into tonight, but I think right off the top, Northwestern beats Miami 13-6, and we'll obviously we're going to talk about the stadium. We're going to talk about the details of the game, offensively, defensively. We have all that to get into, but just to jump in straight in, the meaningfulness. I don't even know if that's a word. I just trademark me. The meaningfulness of this win. Start the season off right, 1-0. How huge is this?
Huge. I mean, you hear everyone was talking about 1-0, but it remains hilarious to me. We put it up online, and it's classic, throw it on the pile as aggrieved Northwestern fans, right? But reading the ESPN being Northwestern narrowly escapes Miami of Ohio, and being Miami of Ohio is awesome. They're a really good team. You know who drummed that home last week? You, ESPN. I specifically remember Bill Connolly driving home being one of the dark horses. If they get that win against Northwestern, they're hosting Cincinnati the next week. And then even if they lose to Notre Dame, all they have to do is run the MAC and they're going to the playoff. And it's Northwestern narrowly escapes. That's an awesome defensive football team. Awesome. With a sixth-year quarterback. Who's a pretty cool customer, and they're going to get into the MAC and they're going to do a ton of damage. They might do damage against Cincinnati at home this weekend. This is a big win. 1-0 is always great, and I know Northwestern fans we're all stung by this kind of thing, but this was a good team. This is a big win against a good team, and frankly, a win that felt fairly comfortable. This was not a pull your hair out. Northwestern looked good in this game, played well. Couple things went against us that I know we're going to talk about, but earned victory against a good team.
I always talked about how calm Boo Buie looked in the last two seasons leading Northwestern on the basketball court compared to the hair on fire kind of way he had played the couple prior seasons, and it just felt like such a huge element of development for him. And I in part, Mike Wright was cool as a cucumber out there, just very, very relaxed and in the moment running this offense. And I felt like the whole team kind of played that way. There were a couple penalties here and there. We'll talk about the fumbles, but for the most part, this was a really clean game. In the first game, in a brand new stadium, in a season that I think most people have been oh, there's so much is changing, offensive line, quarterback, offensive coordinator, yada yada yada. This felt like a veteran, calm, collected team that came out and took care of business against a really tough opponent in what could have been, in the exact type of game and opportunity that Northwestern has fumbled so many times in the past. Particularly against a team who the all-time series is now Miami 7, Northwestern 4. So we're starting to claw our way back to 500. But this is not just a good team, but a team that has given Northwestern fits in the past, and in the type of spot that has been troublesome as well.
And going into this, we were all very concerned about this game.
Yes.
Because the quality of Miami's defense, because this is a team that won their conference last year.
Entire O-line back, sixth-year QB back. They were actually the veteran team coming into this game.
Yeah.
I mentioned 3 Miami of Ohio players highlighted in our summer Miami of Ohio preview. Those guys combined for 21 tackles, 11 solo tackles, and 4 TFLs. Because they're really good players. They're going to go into the MAC and pile up stats this year, okay? It's a really good defense. That's the thing you have to understand. I mean, we talked about people highlighting. I know, Scuzzy, you'll talk about it later, but Miami of Ohio was like 12th in S&P Plus in the nation last year. That's not an accident. Like, and again, like, it's funny you mentioned fumbled opportunities away, right? Well, there's like the literal piece of this. And of course, we're aware that there were two major fumbles in this game, right? And one effectively took a touchdown away. But it's funny how a win in a game where Northwestern otherwise played squeaky clean football has a way of recasting a moment like that. Because now you're looking and you're being like, it very quickly becomes, man, and if we wouldn't have done that, this game never would have really been close. And we would have won 20-6. And you can't map out a better win than 20-6 against a team that is, a defensive powerhouse of the small conferences. So, again, like, are there little things? Yeah, well, we're going to go into all of it really deeply. But man, like I would have been satisfied with a 1-point win in this game because I know what Miami of Ohio is, and we've mapped this out and how crucial every win is going to be. This is a big one, man. Like, if you feel good about it, like, you should feel good about it. Like, the Cats went out and got you a big win.
Another thing to feel good about is the facility. I mean, how much leading into the season was the national narrative like, oh, they're playing on a high school, 15,000. Oh, that's nothing. Oh, they're playing on their practice field. Oh, you know what? When the videos and the pictures and all of the online conversations started happening across the board, it was like, oh my God, this is incredible. How many comments did you guys see that said maybe this should be the permanent place?
Yeah, this is now the pot shot at Northwestern. Is like,
right. Yes.
Oh, these guys are going to screw it up by building a real stadium that we were telling them all summer they should be building a real stadium. It was just a perfect advertisement for the campus and the beauty that we all know and talk about all the time with Northwestern. And yes, like, nobody understands or understood when they were criticizing over the summer and making comments about November that Northwestern's not actually playing any November games on the lake. Let's also be clear, like, please don't tell us what November in Chicago feels like if you yourself haven't experienced it, because it's pretty damn cold at Ryan Field. It's pretty damn cold at Wrigley Field. Guess what's next to the lake in Chicago? Soldier Field. Soldier Field's been next to the lake for the lifetime of the Bears. They do just fine. So,
it's also flipping cold there. So, you know what? It's cold in Chicago in the winter.
Hey, the Gophers play outside in Minnesota,
which is ridiculous. But
at the end of November, it's so I like, again, that all put aside, right? Because no matter what, people are going to take their shots, and that's fine. But first and foremost, I think a lot of credit goes to the folks that actually made the logistics work on game day. The whole NU Sports, facilities crew, et cetera, that made this thing to come together. There was a relatively major snafu in that I guess there were some difficulties with the Jumbotron and video board systems that they couldn't get down and distance to appear on them. They tried and they couldn't get it to appear on them, and so down and distance was only visible in one corner of the stadium during the game.
The one corner that we couldn't see, but for where we were sitting.
Yeah, so that was certainly a bummer. But a event that had never been staged in this location with this field that got built in the last 6 weeks, and that was the only setback. That's a hell of a job well done, guys.
And also, we have been assured that that's going to be fixed by Friday night.
Yep.
Like,
right.
They were aware of it. They knew about it. Like, right after the game, we ran into someone with the athletic department, and they said, yeah, we know, we're on it, it's getting fixed.
Well, and here's, like, the larger point, too, right? It's like, all that does is serve to highlight. I mean, I took a tour of this stadium the Tuesday before the game, and there was very much still construction going on, okay? When you look at something about the fact that, like, for game one, there was an issue with down and distance or whatever, or you could look at, like, the kind of backed up line getting into the game, right? And look at, okay, so they're still ironing out the wrinkles and stuff like that. All should serve to be like, just highlight the miracle it is that this came together in the timetable with which it came together. It, like, your jaw's on the floor. Like, there are little logistical issues, yet no kidding, because they worked a miracle in a matter of months to make this happen. The timetable is just mind-bending. I know that, like, from Jesse Marks to Scott Airy to everyone else in the whole Northwestern Athletics and facilities staff, there are a lot of, like, full hearts right now, and puffed chests, and man, there should be. It's a miracle. And again, like, I think we were standing in, like, that long line waiting to get in, but then you stop and you're like, this game's a sellout. There's no bigger crowd looming on the horizon. It's not like when you play Wisconsin, there are going to be more fans. They built a brand new stadium and had to deal with it being 100% capacity in the first game. And they landed the plane. And all of these little things, like, like people trying to figure out what's the best staircase to get up to their, to get up to their seats. And, we couldn't see down in distance, et cetera, et cetera. It's all just, take it, if you weren't there, take it from anyone who was. It was all just background noise as we all stared with dropped jaws from our seats and being like, I can't believe this is real. You all saw the photo we tweeted out. It was ludicrous. Like, I was staring at the photo being like, oh my God, like, that is such a ridiculous photo. And being like, oh yeah, no, it's really happening. I shouldn't look at my phone. It's real life and it's right in front of my face. And there's the Chicago skyline right there. I mean, it all truly is a miracle. That Northwestern landed the plane on this, every little thing that went wrong, I could care less. It was spectacular.
Well, I think it's important to connect the excitement for the stadium and what was a virtual. I want to say sellout, but the south stands didn't look super full the entire game. But what was announced as a sellout and was a, 80, 90% purple audience. That, I mean, we've seen plenty of September non-conference games in Ryan Field be, just as poorly attended, and it becomes a bit of a sleepy atmosphere. And that's, one of the theories behind Northwestern's just perpetual poor play in September in the last, 15 or 20 years. Or I should say 15 years, not 20. But that weren't no problem on Saturday. It was not sleepy. The buzz was real. The place was hopping. The players talked about it, felt it. We talked to some after the game that said, yeah, it's awesome. It feels so good to be playing on campus, like to feel how excited the crowd is. It wasn't particularly loud. Some of that might just be the fact that it's not, it's not a wraparound kind of place that holds the sound in, but at the same time,
wait, as you're trying to design a stadium in 70 days, are you really going to, focus on the intricacies of acoustics?
Well,
right. Well,
I mean, if you could, it'd be good since that kind of helps you with college football. But I guess the point is that I think the atmosphere was meaningfully different. It's one of the reasons we were so excited about this stadium to begin with. None of us cared that it was smaller. It was going to be mostly purple, and it was going to be electric in there, and that came to pass in all the ways that we hoped it could. And I think it had I'm not going to say distinct impact on what was on the field, but it felt different from years past. I also want to point out, we were so much closer to the field than the analogous seats we would have been in at Ryan Field, which I think is an interesting aspect as well. You're on top of the action. It's a great place to watch football.
It really was. And to everything that Scuzz said too about noise, of course noise is a factor, but also a factor is feeling like it's a big game. And man, this felt like a big game. It did not feel like a sleepy early August non-con game. ESPN blew it out. You had Lisa Byington with Jared Thomas. So two Wildcats.
That was Big Ten Network blowing it out.
BTN. Sorry. Yeah, ESPN, not ESPN. BTN blowing it out, right? With Lisa Byington and Jared Thomas, right? So Jared Thomas, first of all, being the color guy was awesome, but you have two
hell
Wildcats.
Of a call. Hell of a call.
And that drone,
The
we were all
drone!
very aware of this
drone.
huge drone flying all over the place. And then you start hearing from all the people watching on TV being like, oh my God, these drone shots are incredible. And and then it was packed, and it very much felt like a scene. We should fold right into this too. We didn't even participate in the Lakeville piece of the tailgate, and the tailgate scene we participated in was unbelievable.
Phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
Oh my gosh.
And on that note, do you want to mention, we will be in the West Tech lot, right across Sheridan from Tech at Noise. We're going to be there all season long, and that is an incredible vibe. Like the tailgating there was top notch. Really, really great group of people there. Everyone should come by and say hi, starting Friday night and then throughout the rest of the season.
Right. It was so awesome. I mean, it was the whole vibe of being right in the middle of campus, right across from Tech, walking right over to the stadium, and then walking right back to the stadium for all the tailgating after the game. It was really cool. Yeah, you all should come by. Come by, this time if we got an afternoon and an evening, we'll serve you some dinner in the West Tech lot. Come, if you got something you want to bring a contribution, financial or food or beverage, please, by all means, come by, bring it. We will happily accept it. Throw something in the cooler. We'll give you something out of the cooler. I can't stress enough how much fun we had.
I'm just the nature of this being the epicenter that's moving from Central Street to campus, I think is really intriguing. And for those of us who went to school at Northwestern, for me I didn't even come up last year for a game. It wasn't in the cards for me. Like being able to do all this right next to and then on campus for the game, et cetera, is really special for a lot of reasons. I cannot wait for this year's, or for the students, this year to get to experience this, because I think the 4 classes that experience this year, and then the 5th that comes in next year, are going to have a different relationship with Northwestern football. Similar to how the scarcity and the excitement in the new Welsh Ryan Arena with the basketball team has kind of changed the culture around Northwestern basketball the last 2 years. I cannot wait to watch that relationship blossom, because the stadium and all this excitement being in their backyard is going to make it feel like, I don't want to say make it feel like a Big Ten school, but make it feel like it feels on other campuses when the stadium is a central gathering point, is an epicenter, is a draw, is a gravity well. And we have that in really, really exciting terms this year. And I can't wait to watch it play out over the next, 2 months.
And that's a huge note as well. The students were not there. So
Right.
I don't think the students will be there for Duke this weekend, but Eastern Illinois, the students will be on campus. And oh boy, that is going to be jumping.
And the one, I guess the one final thing I want to say about this whole scene is it's so funny how it is so easy for some people, I think, because you're Northwestern fans, you've been bitten in multiple different ways, and any number of things are sitting in the back of your mind, right? That it's so easy to immediately jump to people being like, oh man, we only get to do this for 2 years, and then we're going to be going back out in a bit, and being like, it's okay to just live in the moment of a wonderful thing, right? This was going to be 2 years of a space filler. This was going to be 2 years of the All-State Arena basketball situation, right? While we prayed that we wouldn't lose momentum from that special, that first David Bronze season, while this team played itinerant football far away from home, right? And instead we have this. And we, I get the sentiment, but don't feel the need to suddenly sprint all the way to the other end and be like, oh my gosh, and then 2 years from now we won't be able to do this anymore. It's like this all has worked out perfectly. Just enjoy it. We're going to have 10, 11 games at this facility, and then we're going to have a brand new, glistening, glorious new football stadium. Just enjoy this ride.
If you or a loved one is seriously injured by someone else's negligence, hire Kent Simpson of the Simpson Law Group. After over a decade prosecuting murder cases in Chicago, Simpson opened his own firm focused on wrongful death and personal injury cases. He specializes in car, truck, motorcycle, boat, and other transportation accidents, as well as construction accidents, medical negligence, slip and falls, product liability, and more. Millions recovered for clients. No fee unless he wins. The Simpson Law Group. Compassion, empathy, and vigorous advocacy. Go to simpsonlawgroup.com or call 312-332-2107 for a free consultation, and go Cats. So let's talk about the game. I mean, let's kind of dive into the nitty-gritties here. Was it a high-scoring blowout game? No, it wasn't. We thought it would be low-scoring going in. Vegas thought it would be low-scoring going in. And, we knew that Miami's defense was stout. And we knew that our defense was also more than likely stout, and both of those things came true. Should we start by talking about the offense a little bit? I mean, we were, in our preview, we were so interested in what the Zach Lujan offense was going to look like. And, I mean, I don't know that I got a real sense of it, except the one huge thing, and you guys said it off the top, was the calm of it all. It was, they huddled every play. And part of that is, that you have the communications, the in-helmet communications, so you're able to get the calls from the sideline without having to look over for signals. So
this is an extremely welcome change, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. Connor Stallions can go coach high school football all he wants from now on.
That has nothing to do with it.
You're right. But regardless, I mean, the calm of huddling, getting to the line, and going. It was just methodical, but calm. And that is the word that is just really stuck in my mind, is the calm of it all.
Yeah, they felt like a veteran offense to me, like I said earlier. I think I know I painted quite the picture going into the depth of who is Zach Lujan on our Northwestern preview, and I stand by everything I said. And I'm gonna document here a little bit of some of the really exciting evidence I saw on Saturday. But holistically, I think this was not a dynamic, high flying offense. I said I didn't think this was going to be a 40 point a game offense. 30 is a stretch, right? But from the perspective of where we started last year and where we're starting this year, I think we are in a different stratosphere. And let me hit that home. I went through the play-by-play of the Rutgers game last year and the Miami game from Saturday, comparing, and I'm looking at running game only here. I'm just looking for explosion plays. I'm looking for gains above 4 yards, gains below 3. The pieces are here, is what I'm saying. And in comparing these two offenses, some people might be bucking against us. Again, we keep saying it. Miami's a good defense. They were number 12 in S&P Plus last year in defense. Rutgers was number 19. This feels like a pretty apt comparison. So against Rutgers, Northwestern ran the ball 17 times. 8 of those times they gained 4 or more yards. And 9 of those times 3 or less. One play went for more than 10 yards. It was a 15-yard Ben Bryant run. This is while Bryant was 20 of 36, 170 yards, 4.7 yards per attempt. Northwestern turned the ball over twice with 2 picks, and they got 1 fumble. Zach Lujan's running game. So we ran the ball 28 times, and difference between starting a running quarterback and a non-running quarterback. I'm not talking about the volume here. But last year against Rutgers, 8 plays with 4+ yards, 9 plays with 3 or fewer. And just, so many of those 1 yard run, 1 yard run. Against Miami, 11 plays with 3 or less yards gained, 17 with 4+.
Wow.
6 plays of 10 or more yards. So Cam went for 12 and 10. He also had a 9-yard run. And Mike Wright, 20, 13 for the TD, 19 and 16 to ice the game. That's 6 explosion plays on the ground in the first game of the year with a brand new offensive line and a brand new offense, while the quarterback still put up pretty similar numbers, 18 of 30, 178 yards, 5.8 yards per attempt. Better passing stats overall than Bryant did a year ago. So this, I'm not saying that like we've hit pay dirt here on the offense yet. I'm just saying where we started last year and where we're starting this year, we are several measures above already with plenty of headroom to go. And that is a really exciting place to be.
Absolutely. I mean, they methodically moved the ball on the ground against, and again, I know we're repeating this again and again, but can't stress enough, a very good Miami of Ohio defense. It's basically almost the exact same personnel as what Miami of Ohio had last year. It's like they have an awesome defense. They brought back all of their best guys except one. And we methodically moved the ball on the ground. And you look at like Wright and Porter was the heart of it. Wright and Porter's rushing numbers are awesome. Like that's a unit. Those two guys combined average close to 6 yards a carry, and that's with a long of 20. Like they're just getting chunks, piece after piece after piece, methodically moving the ball down the field. And again, like we were saying, the overall success in clean football has a way of reframing what went wrong. Because yeah, we fumbled the ball at the 1 yard line, and if not for that, this game isn't really ever close. Like, and again, we'll get to the defensive piece of that. I think we'll circle.
Can we talk about the fumbles real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I didn't have a chance to look at this. I know you guys mentioned the first fumble that happened, like it was around midfield or just inside of our territory.
It was actually, I think, just in their territory, but it was in the middle
close
of the
to
field.
midfield. Yeah,
between the 40s.
Yeah, and that one. So that one from where we were, it just looked like a shotgun. It could be that, and again, it could be that it just slipped out of Wright's hand.
No,
I thought,
you know what it was.
Here's
what it was. I went back and watched it. They were running a two. It was like a three, like an I formation, quarterback, and then two backs behind him. Those two went to split to make what looked like either a T or a diamond formation. The center snapped it before Wright was ready, and
because the two guys were in motion and
because the two guys were in motion and weren't set, it wasn't called a false start. It was called an illegal shift, and that was the difference, because we saw the flag and we're like, oh, that was a false start, clearly, but because it was an illegal shift, that penalty was able to be declined, and hence Miami got the ball. But that's what it was. It wasn't that
false start would have been dead ball.
False start would have been dead ball, 5-yard penalty, repeat the down. In this case, it was, I don't think Wright was expecting the snap right then.
It doesn't excuse the miscue, but
no, not at all.
Right, it's the sort of thing that's pretty typical in the first week. What happened on the other fumble, the goal line? Did either of you guys go back and watch that one?
I hadn't gotten to that point
I did not. I mean, I know he was under center, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I think it was just an exchange. I mean, Wright put it all on himself. Wright was basically like, I just lost it. I need to focus better. But again, I'm like, the first one, kind of a weird freak play, but you made the point that, again, you can go back and it's really easy to notice things that go wrong, and a lot of times it's really easy not to notice all the things that don't go wrong, right? And there was a moment, I think it was in the fourth quarter of the game, where Northwestern had a holding penalty, and I went, wait, I think that's our first holding penalty.
Yep.
And it was. We had one on the day, right? And this, like, you look at a random play like you have, and like you said, these are the kind of things that tend to happen early in the year. Like, you don't ever want them to, but we have a completely restructured offensive line that we were all really nervous about. I mean, Scuzz really beat this home. Like, you're really excited about the individual pieces, but this unit in this order of guys with these new guys coming in has no reps together in this formation. Not one game rep coming into this game.
And honestly, it didn't look like that.
No. I mean, and that's, I want to specifically get into the nitty gritty on that in a little bit. I wanted to talk about Wright first. And one thing I wanted to talk about with Wright, and we all talked about this, Wright had a couple great throws in this game. The throw that stands out to me the most is an underhanded shovel pass that went about 3 yards immediately out of bounds.
Yes.
This was something that it's a throwaway play, but it told me so much about Mike Wright. He was flushed out of the pocket. He was scrambling to his right. It looked like his heart rate never rose above medium the entire time, even when he's moving at top speed. He saw he was hemmed in, and at the last second, he just kind of like lackadaisically chucked the ball underhanded upfield and out of bounds. It's the kind of play you don't think about at all when there's a veteran quarterback who does it. And then sometimes you'll see a guy who if he's just all wired up, and it's exactly the kind of play that an inexperienced quarterback forgets to do.
So to kind of get into why that was important is he was being flushed out of bounds. He was going to go out of bounds, and
3 or 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage.
The clock was going to stop. By throwing an incomplete pass, that saved 4 yards. The clock stopped anyway, and that eliminated the sack, which is what it would have been, and just such a heady play.
Yeah, this is where I'll call out too. Like 4 sacks given up in that game against Rutgers last year, 0 in this game.
Yep, and that was the thing, right? It was a great offensive line performance, and he's just a cool customer. He's rolling out. He knows exactly what the situation is. Looking to throw, looking to run, looking to throw. Oh, I'm hemmed in. Knows exactly. That was the thing. Like, we all watched it, and we were all like, wait a minute, that was a pretty sick play. We were like, wow, he knew exactly what was going on there, and he just saved 4 yards, just like Sam said. It was really impressive. And you realize, like, this is a guy who's played a lot of football, and he seemed very comfortable in this offense.
He also seemed pretty electric. I mean, like, they opened
yes
with play action and essentially a corner out route to Bryce Kurtz, which connected, which looked pretty nice. I mean, I think I would have liked to see a bit more activity with the receivers over the middle. Most of the passes were out routes towards the sidelines. I think in retrospect, it's hard to say this in the game, given the score, et cetera. In retrospect, what it feels like is that just didn't want to take any chances over the middle with Miami's linebackers and felt like maybe they didn't need to. Could they have been saving some of the more exotic stuff for later on? I don't know. There were also a number of times where you saw Wright kind of like loft one up either to Henning or to Kurtz, and it didn't connect for whatever reason. He was a little wild sometimes on a few throws that he just missed out of bounds. This is where the offense felt kind of inconsistent to me, but by the same token, Kurtz caught 6 balls for 91 yards, averaged 15 per. Covey was involved. Calvin Johnson was involved, which was really awesome. Thomas Gordon had a really nice catch and run at one point. Henning was targeted a ton. We said it before, the run game is going to be the focus of this team. This is not going to be a launch it downfield. It's not going to look like it looked in its high points last year with Ben Bryant, but I think it can be ultimately even more devastating as they can dial in some of those inconsistencies and just get even a little bit more comfortable in the scheme and with each other.
Huge point. Absolutely.
For sure. Absolutely. And like you said, like there's no doubt Wright can move, man. Like that dude's a weapon. And you're right. I think Scott's like you come away being like, man, I want to see even more of that. And again, this is where like keep coming back to Miami of Ohio's defense is really well coached, and they really know what they're doing, and they knew what we were going to do, and they, we still felt like we were able to move the ball. And it's like, so when you look at some of those inconsistencies, you have to factor in the quality of Miami and something that I want to get into right now. So I think this is the kind of thing where I think a lot of you look to us for stuff like this because we are really watching this stuff closely, and it's the kind of stuff that we really want to point out, and in doing so, really kind of help you guys understand some of the stuff that's like really going on under the hood. Some of the same stuff that Scuzz really hammered home last year in the offensive preview. if I'm giving out a game ball in this game to the offense, it's 100% going to Ben Rather. And understanding why is going to help you understand a lot of the special things that this offense is trying to do right now. So Ben Rather is this is a graduate student. This is a guy, fifth year, been with the team forever. And we kind of picked up over the weeks leading up to the season, and then right up until what we saw in this game, you start to piece a couple of pieces together and realize some really important things. One of the things that we had realized that, from like hearing things, Scuzz is looking at all the tape, this offense loves guards. It's a super guard-friendly offense. It wants fast, violent guards getting to the second level with speed and vengeance and doing damage, okay? If you have guards like that, this offense lets them shine, okay? It puts them in the second level and has them create havoc. And one of the big clues was as everyone saw, Nick Herzog, who you listened to our preview, we did not see this coming, started at left guard. And you can look at that and look at the kind of player he is, which is this absolute freak athlete who is capable of just incredible speed and power for an offensive lineman. And then it can reframe something else that we had seen in the lead up. If you read Matt Shelton's article about Josh Thompson, we talked about that we were excited because he was going to be moving into guard. Well, Matt Shelton's article mentioned that Thompson had been like, I could play guard or tackle. Well, when you see that Ben Rather started at right tackle in this game, a couple of things factor in, right? Because, we talked about, like, with Scuzz, like, this team brought in multiple transfer tackles, Cooper Lovelace, Matt Keeler, right? Who we were talking about, like all guys who are in mix for right tackle. But then you also hear in Matt Shelton's article, Thompson's talking about, I could potentially be playing right tackle too. And this all goes into this whole, it becomes very obvious when you see Rather play right tackle that this team really wants Josh Thompson at right guard for all of the reasons he's a perfect fitted guard for this offense, but knows it might need him at right tackle. And for all the talk about the guards and everything that they can do, that all depends on really good tackle play. And then you look again at a Ben Rather, who played 11 games at center last year, right? With, always looking like a tackle playing center. He's a tall offensive lineman who always kind of looked like out of place at that position. And now he's moving out to a position he's never started at. He's never made a start at tackle. And he's stepping up and being like, I know my team needs me to start at right tackle so that Josh Thompson can start at right guard so we can execute this whole offense with this whole new set of guys, right? And everything Scuzz hammered home that the offensive line's an organism. You can have great guys. We sent 2 offensive linemen to the NFL while we had offensive lines overall that had major problems, right? Like, the whole system has to work. And it's clear right now that system works best when Ben Rather is playing right tackle and Josh Thompson is playing right guard. And, it all came together and it all worked. And just when you realize that's a senior leader playing a totally different offensive line position and succeeding to make the whole system work, that's so Thompson and Herzog can go downfield and crush people and open holes for Cam Porter and make this whole thing go. You wouldn't notice it. It's a big deal, man. It's a big deal. Made this whole thing work. And again, I was psyched. I was psyched to see Rather out there at right tackle and then see it all go exactly the way I know he wanted it to go.
That point about the only being an organism is such a great call, John. And I'll harken back to, I kind of talked about where I thought everybody's going to start, and I talked about the transfers coming in, and I was pegging Lovelace as being in the starting 5, but then kind of called out look, there's a bunch of other highly regarded dudes that came in, Herzog being one of them that I named, but this organism's not just the 5 that started on Saturday, right? You've got Knox and Bursa and Edwards and the transfer Lovelace and Keeler, and I'm surely forgetting a name or two here, but there's still there's a ton of parts here think the other thing that became clear to us just talking to folks about Bill O'Boyle, the new offensive coordinator, the new offensive line coach, is that this guy like is a get down in the stance and show you how to. He's a hands-on teacher. It dovetails so much with what we saw and heard from Lujan and the way that he talks about the game and talks about focusing on very specific techniques, etc. Well, Boyle's going to make these guys better. He's going to grow them throughout the year, and that this organism is going to have so much more depth and stamina and resilience than in years past. And that's not a shot at anything that's happened in the past. That's just where I see this going, and I see offensive line becoming an area of strength and a focal point for the way this offense is being developed, and it's really exciting.
Shout out to Bryce Kurtz, Frank Covey, Thomas Gordon, AJ Henning, Calvin Johnson, all with receptions on the day. Really nice to see the ball spread around a little bit. Seeing Covey in action was awesome. Kurtz obviously with that first play, long pass was really, really great. Didn't see a ton of Henning, but we also saw like Ricky Hummeries, who didn't get a catch, but like seeing him out in action was really cool.
Huge
lot
dude.
A lot of speed, boys. Yep. I mean, Ricky is more size, right? But seeing Covey and Johnson in particular really stood out, and I think a lot of the routes were just speed routes to the outside. You saw some fades. There was one really, really sick. I think it was to Covey. This like a really sick catch that Wright just kind of dropped in over the top of a defender that had pretty good coverage. I just like, again, we didn't see an outpouring of scoring on Saturday. We did not see a dynamic blow anybody out of the water offense. It'll be really interesting to see what this offense looks like when Northwestern is behind in a game, and needs to catch up. That's going to be how they look differently, or if they look differently, will be really interesting to diagnose and evaluate. But all the pieces that we thought would be there were on display in one way, shape, or form, and the arrow is still pointing up, folks. It's we're going to see this group get better and develop as the year goes on.
Shall we talk about the defense?
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, if Miami had scored, a couple touchdowns, in the first quarter or something, it would have been really interesting to see how the offense would have looked. And the potential for Miami to score any touchdowns was near but nil.
Slim to none, and Slim just left the building.
Amen. Let me just say, like, we've been right about a bunch of stuff over the years. We've been wrong about a bunch of stuff over the years. And like when I think of last year and, some of our grave prognostications, sometimes you're hoping to be wrong, but then there's a year like this where, man, when you're right and we were right on this defense, it feels so good, man. Everything they did against Utah in the Las Vegas Bowl, they rolled it right out again and did it. And I'm so excited to talk about all three levels. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about, I feel like offensive line, they've had trench cats for a while. And if I may, I would like to christen this defensive line unit the Crocodiles. And let me tell you why. Because they drag teams under and drown them in defensive linemen. And it is so awesome to watch. Here's Saka, here's Soares, here's Story, Hubbard, Gant, Kilbane, Pearson, here's Pate, here's McLaughlin, here's Cameron, here's Flakes. You just take it again and again and again. Christian Smith sends wave after wave after wave, and he drowns teams in these guys. It is incredible. We have this, we were joking, like our seats in the north stands are like this all 22 vantage point.
It's so cool.
I'm so jealous that you guys get to watch this all year. It's just amazing.
It's so cool. And when you're when the team, especially when they're on our side of the field, we can see everything. And these player rotations that we've talked about, I told you that this defensive line might play up to 14 guys. Well, they played 11 in this game. And they rotate these guys in so furiously. It is just incredible. Like, one of the things you have to keep, like, this defensive line was missing its captain, Carmine Bastone, who, we found out is injured. We're hoping he's going to be back sometime. We don't know the exact timetable on it. I think it's, it could be a week-to-week thing. Like, Braun, I think, is hopeful sometime in the near future. We're hopeful as well that he's going to be coming back. But again, I just listed all of those guys. That it's not just that they all played. The rotations are so furious and insane. Like, you have all that. Like Christian Smith is on the side of the field like Herb Brooks in Miracle, just going again, looking at Miami of Ohio. There will be this entire wing of teams we're going to play this year where their offensive lines just won't be able to handle this. Like, I'm telling you straight up right now, the Crocodiles are going to drown these teams. It's too many guys.
I had a thought. If you don't want to use Crocodiles, the Armada would also be
like the pirate. They just, again, like, it is pulling teams underwater. Like, you can't handle this many guys. It's like 11, 12 guys who are all, let's say, conservative B-level players or above. And it's just wave after wave after wave. I don't know how he does it. And there are specialty situations for every single play. It's all the stuff we talked about. It's clockwork. These guys all know exactly what to do, when to do, how to do it, and what group of guys they're going to be able to do it with on every given play. Go ahead.
I think it's really important to talk about how this manifested in the game, because I think the casual observer and the casual view of, and I'm not trying to be not trying to be critical there. I think if you're watching this game and you're just kind of paying attention to what's on the screen and you're not agonizing over it like we do, you're looking at Brett Gabbert making a lot of passes and testing Northwestern's young secondary on the outside and doing it pretty regularly and moving the ball. He's 22 of 37 for 227 yards. That's not bad. It's not amazing, but it's not bad. But here's the thing. He had, I think, one opportunity to throw a long pass all game because he had to get the ball out so fast.
Right.
And the thing about Brett Gabbert, excuse me, this is a 6-year veteran QB who I thought looked incredible in his return from a gruesome leg injury last year. I mean, he was just clicking like nothing. And talking to some other Miami fans after the game, they felt the same way. His comeback, like, he's going to have a good season this year because he had to diagnose and get that ball out ASAP all the time. And so all Miami could do was run these shallow out routes. And yes, they were able to move the ball and pick up some yardage, etc., but they were never really able to threaten Northwestern or stretch Northwestern's defense in a way that would have created mismatches or problems or space for the running game. And that is the impact of these Crocodiles and this attack on the defensive side. And they got to the QB 4 times and they forced 2 picks.
Right.
One off of Karam and one that was more of a bad throw that was rushed kind of in a high leverage moment. But that, like, we've seen this formula before. It works really well when you put a quarterback in a bad position where he has to make really, really fast decisions and make really tight passes. And it gives a greedy ball hawking secondary opportunities to do a whole ton of stuff. So this is textbook what you want your defense to be able to do to a passing game, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, Scuzz, you talked about it with the Phil Steele guide in our preview, being like, they don't know how to reflect what this defensive line is, because Antos Saka's not even listed. On the list. Right, because all it is weapons who are deployed in certain situations. Here's a perfect way to sum this up. all of you in your head, why don't you guess how many snaps Kenny Soares played in this game? You know how many snaps Kenny Soares played in this game?
14.
14.
Oh my God, I was going to guess 20.
14.
14 snaps. It might as well have been 40. He's
Wow.
he's like a pit bull chained to the front of the house, just waiting for the moment when he gets unleashed. And it's like he goes, like, when he's on the field, it's maximum effect every single time. Like, he's put out there. Now, there's a little bit more like inside football to this, where we played 4-2-5 basically this entire game. We played 4-3, like one down, and in that down, it looked like he was the third linebacker. But I mean, this goes to everything we talked about. Like, you'd be like, well, you know, he's called linebacker, but nominally he was a defensive end in this game. No. He's a weapon. Don't trouble yourself with positions. This guy is out there at the right times to get after the quarterback. He obliterated Gabbert on a play in this game. He and Saka, that was that was a crime what those two guys did to the offensive line on that play. But you look and like, I would say there's a way to, like, however many GIFs I'm making of a guy after the game, you know, is pretty good representation of how well he did. And like, I'm cranking out Kenny Soares content, and the guy played 14 snaps in the game. Like, it's like, again, call them the Crocodiles, because okay, they're going to play a couple of elite lines this season, and elite lines, you know, they do what they do, and they're going to try to grind the ball and do all the things that they do well. But I'm telling you straight up, at least half of the offensive lines that we play on our schedule can't handle this. It's just not sustainable. You're not playing enough guys. The guys that you play and the pounding they're going to take handling fresh football players wave after wave all season, all game, it's not sustainable. You're going to wear down. We're going to take you apart. Like, lock it in. I'm so stoked about this. It's everything I wanted to see.
Next week's team is one of these offensive lines.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We could probably do linebacker.
Yeah, let's hit the linebackers.
It's quick. Again, you know, one of them,
Xander Mueller,
linebacker
really good
in the conference.
Really good.
He's really good. It's funny we mentioned 2 picks. We also watched Xander Mueller from our vantage point hawk a pass so bad, and he missed it by like 1 inch. Xander was about 1 inch away from starting his season off with an interception. It's what he does. It's one of the many million things he does. We only played 2 other linebackers, and yet it totally emphasizes everything that we talked about. We ran a 4-2-5 the entire game, and yet still found a way to rotate 2 guys back and forth almost the entire game in the other linebacker spot. Mac Uline and Braden Bruss, 2 guys we were super excited about. They both played. They both looked friggin' awesome. Uline had 2 sacks. It was sweet. Like, again,
and both of them were just in Gabbert's face all day long.
Absolutely. Bruss, we were so excited about. He finally got in. First play, he gets airborne, lands on a guy. We were like, oh man, this is incredible. But they rotated him the entire game. It's, again, even in a space where only 2, there's really only 1 free position because the other's manned by the best linebacker in the conference. They still found ways to maximize the effectiveness of 2 exciting linebackers we've been waiting to see. I mean, this D is just so many parts doing so many things. And then the final piece, we were laughing so much, like, it's almost like LaMarcus Hicks is watching what Christian Smith is doing and being like, all right, you want to play the shuffle awesome guys game? All right, it's my turn. Because we went through, we mapped out all these secondary guys who could play in this game, and we saw every single one of them, plus a freshman, Josh Fussell, who also played meaningful moments. But it's like, we were basically,
and looked
like,
really good too.
He did. And we were like, you're going to see Robert Fitzgerald, you're going to see Braden Turner, you're going to see Evan Smith. These guys were all on this super elite coverage unit last year. 2 of the 3 guys I mentioned had interceptions in this game. And it wasn't just that they all played, it was that particularly the safeties, Coco, Devin, who we knew we were going to see, and then Robert Fitzgerald, who we expected to see, and then Braden Turner, who we found out is playing safety. It's not that those guys played safety; they all played all over. Like you saw all of them, all of them except Coco, who I think manned his spot all game until he got banged up. Like you saw them playing back at safety. You saw them rolled up. We were trying to keep it. We were so excited because half of these guys have new numbers, and we're looking through being like, wait, that's Turner? Like, that's Braden Turner. That's Evan Smith. Oh, look, Robert Fitzgerald. Oh my God, Evan Smith got an interception. Like, it would, like Scuzz mentioned, we played conservative because we're playing a bunch of young guys. The one thing you don't want in a game like this is to get beat over the top. So we didn't give them that all game. And given that, these guys were more than happy to let the nickel dime stuff happen. And I think it was Fitzgerald, but Fitzgerald specifically said, like, he was like, we've just been sitting back and they handed us the same read like 3 times in a row, and I knew what was coming, and I just took it. And keep in mind, that's a guy who has very little heavy playing time coming into this season. Like, it's just a bunch of sweet guys, and they're all playing. We played 22 guys in defense in this game. That's 22 meaningful reps. You can go all the way down. A guy like Jaden Cameron, defensive lineman, had a big pass batted down late in this game. It was like, I say 22. That's not 22 where like a couple of them didn't really play much. That's 22 guys all played meaningful snaps in a big game. We just rotate all 3 levels. It's ridiculous. I honestly have never seen anything like it.
It's awesome, and I can't wait to see how it progresses as we move along. Quickly, because I do want to mention special teams. It was really cool.
This is where, like, talk about an area in the past that has felt like has been anxiety-inducing and hair-pulling and concerning. Is it going to work? And it was like zero drama.
Yeah, I mean,
with maybe one small exception.
Sure, and like I'm not gonna worry too much about a missed long field goal with the wind. It's a new situation. The wind was being weird like all game long, which we knew was going to happen. So it's a matter of adjusting to that. A long kick is going to be a little iffy from time to time. I'm not gonna sweat that. We won the game. Luke Akers looked great. Three punts, 41 yard average. 2 of his 3 were put inside the 20. It's awesome to see this kid.
Yeah, punting, the coverage units, the return units, like very, very low drama, very chill. It's important to note that Jack Olson nailed his first field goal.
Yeah,
which was not short. It was a
45 yarder. Yeah.
The second one was also 45 yards, and yeah, he pushed it a little bit too far. Maybe would have wished he was, a little closer to the other hash, etc. But regardless, I just like that's been an area of pain for Northwestern in the past, and to be just really, really competent and solid out the gate at the beginning of the season is a great place to be.
Here's an interesting sentence to say with no context provided. Thumbs were milked in the north end zone.
For those of you wondering what if John's brain just broke, that's Jack Olson's signature celebration, and it's a euchre reference as opposed to like a dairy farm reference. But yes,
we had Wildcat fans sitting right in front of us who were very aware of this, just as aware of the milkman's special stuff as we were, and were excited to do this after it's great. It was so good. And then, the third kick, I think at once it was a bummer that it missed, but that was one of those ones where we were almost like, I remember almost being like, man, this is a tough kick in a weird situation. And I only feel comfortable with us kicking a field goal at all because Jack Olson's the kicker. If we didn't have
Well, it was 4th and 2 at the Miami of Ohio 27. So that's the situation you're talking about.
Right. And I mean, and he barely hooked it. But I mean, I was like, with another kicker, I would have been like, go for it, because this is a high pressure kick in a weird situation. But I mean, like with the milkman, you're like, yeah, man, that's why we have him, is to try kicks like this. And you know what? Like, it didn't go in. But if it does go in, he has, an absolutely fantastic day. And as it was, it barely. And that first kick.
I don't know. Looking at our rushing performance in retrospect, I feel a little bit differently, because like in where we were sitting, it was hard to tell how many yards we were getting, per run throughout the course of the game. Like, looking back on it now, I'm like, man, 4th and 2 in that spot where basically you end the game by converting, and if you don't, it's no different than a missed field goal. I probably would have run. I would have run the ball up the gut with Cam Porter. I
get your logic, but I mean, at the same time, if I'm Braun, I totally get it, to be like, hey, we got the milkman. Like,
yeah.
That's why we have a guy like this, and like, it didn't go in. I fully expect him to make it the next time, because he's an awesome kicker. Like,
well, if you feel like it's 60% chance either way, like,
right.
Go for points.
And that first kick too. That was the first kick in the new stadium, 45 yards. And I think everyone was like, oh, here we go. Here's the first one. Everyone's in their stands being like, I feel a little breeze coming off of the lake, but what is it like down on the field? And then he just crushed it, and it was like, that showed us all. It's like, all right, Milkman's fine with it. Let's go.
He hit a no doubt 38-yarder too. So not exactly chip shots.
I do want to now move ahead and start to talk about Duke, but God, we could talk about this game all night long, and I'd love to, but in the interest of time, any final thoughts on week 1?
No, I think the immediate thing you start doing as you're walking out of that stadium is thinking about how what we saw today applies to Duke.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm literally already looking at the Duke rushing stats.
That's what we were talking about on the way back to the tailgate is, and I was thinking about specifically our defensive line performance. And here we have a Duke team that has not only a brand new starting offensive line, but one that had very few participants in the spring because so many of these guys transferred in, a completely new coaching staff from top to bottom. And they have a quarterback that is immobile. Now, Malik Murphy he's got a big time arm. He's 230 pounds. It's going to be pretty hard to bring down. But Brett Gabbert was moved. I mean, there was at least a couple more sacks that he avoided by extending plays, etc. I mean, he was a little tough to peg down back there. Malik Murphy is not that type of guy, and I flippin' love this matchup for our defense. Add to it that Duke carried the ball 27 times against Elon on Saturday and gained 60 yards.
Yep.
And I am salivating for this matchup on Friday night.
2.2 yards a carry against Elon.
Yep. And when Scuzz says this guy's immobile, Malik Murphy, 0 carries against Elon. He don't run.
And he didn't run when he was at Texas either. Like, he does not run the ball.
Right. And you can look at everything we did against Miami and be like, it's going to be a lot of the same stuff. Like, get ready for the underneath stuff. Like, they're probably going to give it. And, like, that's...
Duke's got some good receivers. They've got some speed, so we're going to be given a cushion, and we're going to be trying to make Malik throw fast. And can he be accurate under those conditions? This is, going to be, I think, game number 4 for him in college as opposed to Gabbert in year 6. We're going to put him under pressure and see what happens. But Duke has, and with Jordan Moore and Eli Pankel, I mean, they've got some speed that we need to keep in front of us. So this will be a test for the secondary, certainly. But again, I love the front 7 matchup so much.
Yeah, Pankel had a 55-yard catch against Elon. Jordan Moore had a 47-yard catch. Moore went 7 for 122. Pankel 7 for 81, and then Pankel had that touchdown as well.
Right. And remember, like, this is like, on one hand, it's Duke. This is our hated like our hated non-conference rival.
Just as, I mean, if we're talking about the series, being upside down with Miami of Ohio, I don't know what the lifetime series against Duke is. I don't care what it is. This has been a very painful team to play.
Yeah.
Right. But like the other flip side being like, this is Duke, okay? It's not Minnesota of like the PJ Fleck. Like, they just turned over their entire offensive line. It's not like they just reloaded at this position, okay? Yeah, Miami of Ohio is a MAC team, but their whole offensive line was like, they returned like the entire thing. They were super stable at that position. Duke's not stable there at all, which is why they went out against an FCS team that went 6-5 in the FCS last year. And it's not like Duke didn't try to run the ball. 27 for 59, 2.2 yards a carry. And now they're playing our defensive line. And like the thing, Malik Murphy, big. I watched Anto Saka ragdoll the right tackle for Miami of Ohio in that game. We put up a gif of it. It was put "look away, children" on the gif. Like, that's a 300-pound guy. Like, if our guys get home, they're going to take him down. And I think you're going to see a lot of four-man rushes because we're going to think that we can get home with four, and I believe that we can. As we have hammered home, it's going to be a different four guys every single time. And we're just going to go. And that Duke offensive line, they just don't have it. They sure don't have it for 4 quarters, not against this unit, okay? And I don't want that to sound cocky. I'm just telling you. I'm telling you what we know. I'm telling you what we've seen and what every bit of statistical analysis and tape tells you. It's a mismatch, just like Scuzz said. And that doesn't mean, like, Murphy's probably going to pile up numbers because we're going to give him that stuff. Like, we don't want him going over the top. But they're going to try to get to him with 4. They're going to have success doing it. They're going to shut down this run game. And that's going to be a huge deal. That's going to be like the huge piece that is going to help so much with everything that we're trying to do on the other side of the ball.
Speaking of the other side of the ball, I do just want to make mention Duke did tally 8 sacks against Elon. Again,
this is where it's very hard to get a read on Duke,
right?
Because Elon
it's Elon. We don't know what that really means.
Yeah, you kind of expect them to get 8 sacks,
right?
But we also know like the defense does not look on par with defenses of the past. It's a new brain trust, et cetera. Yeah, Manny Diaz, but he doesn't have the types of players that he's operated with at Miami or Penn State at this stage.
That's a really good point. Is like when you look at Duke and then you look at Elon and you look at 8 sacks, it's Manny Diaz. He's trying to get 8 sacks. Like Manny, like he's bringing more than 4 guys on every single play. And if it's an FCS team that's, again, this is a mediocre FCS team, like they don't have any way to handle that. Like he can probably get 8 sacks just off scheme. And that's not to be flippant. And they're going to be bringing heat against us. We all have seen that Penn State defense. It's the same scheme, but again, like how does that, like when you look at like blitzing all day, we're going to try to hammer this team. We're going to try to put our guards at the second level, just like they did against Miami of Ohio and let Cam Porter eat. None of that scheme stuff really makes a difference against that. Like if we've got that, that's going to be the difference in the game.
This is where we do have to call out. We've lost 5 straight to Duke.
Ugh.
Yep.
Do we have to call that out? I'd rather not.
I think this is a monster under the bed in very real terms. When we were good and they were exceptional in 2017 and 2018, they beat us pretty handily. We really struggled to score in those games. In 21 and 22, ironically, when our offense was really bad in 21, it was a little bit better in 22. Still not great. Those were the Jim O'Neill years, though. I mean, Duke put up 30 on us, and then last year Duke was an exceptional team, and it's important to remember Riley Leonard got hurt, and then they were a shell of themselves the rest of the season. So it's easy to look at it and be like, wow, they were that much better than us, and then they sucked the rest of the way. There's a huge asterisk on that, and you could just go back and watch what Riley Leonard did with a green offensive line against 3 future NFL starters in Texas A&M on Saturday night for Notre Dame. Like, that dude is elite, and he tore us apart last year, and this is an extremely different Duke team, and frankly, it's a different Northwestern team too. So I think we have reason to be excited and optimistic in this matchup. The pieces on paper are favorable. What's the line? 3 points?
I think we were by 3 last time I
checked. Let me just get an updated line on that right now.
Yeah, so we should be favored.
Two and a half. It's gone to 2.5. It opened at 3 and has gone to 2.5.
This is one of those I won't feel comfortable until the final whistle.
Sure. I think at the same time, like what you said about Duke winning 5 in a row, like our fan base, and much more importantly, the players are well aware of this. Yeah. This is a revenge game for Northwestern. So when you're talking about the Crocodiles, you're talking about that defensive line, okay, revenge game. Those guys are pissed. They want to get this series turned back around. And so do we fans, and it's going to be a raucous environment in the stadium that night. And you've also heard us, the West Lot Pirates, preview Duke multiple times in often funereal tones, especially when it was last season's Duke preview. We knew what Duke had, and we knew how difficult it was going to be. And this ain't that team, man. Like Scuzz said, it's different. It's different, and it's different majorly in the trenches, and it's different in a bunch of other ways too. And this is it. Like we feel good about this one. Like Scuzz said, no exhaling until the final whistle, but we like everything we're bringing into this game.
This crocodile analogy that I'm really digging, like to take it a step further, does this make Christian Smith the croc hunter, or does it make him Killer Croc from the DC universe?
Ooh,
that's a good question.
We'll workshop that. We're
going to workshop this. Submissions welcome. Thoughts welcome, listeners.
I don't want to go through every single Big Ten game because we would be here all night, but what were the big takeaways? Obviously, the North Carolina going on the road and knocking off Minnesota was the only Big Ten loss. You had the USC beating LSU.
I think it's important to put a little bit of context on that Big Ten loss. Because and this kind of cuts in both directions. So one, Darius Taylor did not suit up for Minnesota.
Right.
The absolute superstar of their team did not play. They missed a field goal at the death by an extremely accurate kicker that would have won them the game 20-19. He also doinked one off the goalpost in the first quarter. And yet at the same time, Max Johnson, the LSU transfer who was North Carolina's starting quarterback, was lost for the season with a knee injury in the second quarter. So it is really hard to peg this game because at times Minnesota looked like the classic run another team off the field kind of Minnesota with really strong O-line play and their running back Marcus Major looked really, really good. At the same time, and then you're thinking to yourself like, gosh, it's not even Darius Taylor out there. And then on the other hand, North Carolina is missing their signal caller, the guy that makes it all happen. So North Carolina also threw a pick that was returned, I think, to the 6-yard line. So this was a true chaos game. But there are hints of like maybe Minnesota is going to land more in that optimistic side of our prognostications than in the pessimistic side.
I agree because I think like on one hand, I agree in that they're going to get Taylor back, right? And obviously almost pulling this one out without Taylor. On the other hand, North Carolina lost their quarterback in this game, and it's really possible that Minnesota's going to be saddled with a loss to a bad North Carolina team. And which is a bummer for Minnesota because, right, like you said, like this was a valiant effort for them. In terms of all the rest of the games, I mean, honestly, there wasn't too much that surprised me. I mean, there's so many teams playing bad teams. I mean, and you look at a game like Oregon, Idaho, but I mean, Oregon controlled that game, and they didn't pile up points. So it's like, I don't really know. I think if I'm picking games, the Penn State game was a big one. West Virginia was good last year, and
West Virginia is supposed to be really good this year.
Yeah. And Penn State showed out, and particularly Aller. And man, if they get an improvement out of Aller, all bets are off. Like that team is.
Aller wasn't really tested though. I mean, he only threw the ball 17 times.
3 TDs though. Yeah.
3 TDs, but Singleton did.
Yeah.
I mean, 13 carries for 114 yards. The defense. I mean, West Virginia scored 6 points in the second quarter. It was already, they're already down 20, 6 points in the fourth. I don't think nobody expected Penn State to cakewalk this win like they did.
Right.
And that just tells you like they have so much like headroom and capacity.
Right. So I mean, like it's like at the same time, it's like Michigan looked fine, Ohio State looked fine.
I'll raise a couple eyebrows. Raise an eyebrow on Wisconsin.
Yep, I wanted to go here.
Yeah, 28-14 over Western Michigan. Yeah, they won, but they did not look great.
I mean, are our eyebrows raised?
Well, here's why they're raised. They did the same shit as last year. Tyler Van Dyke, 44 touches.
Yeah.
The rest of the running backs combined, 38 touches. Those numbers don't sound crazy, but this is a
Wisconsin.
Team.
Yeah.
Their offensive line is built to road grade and in a run game. And yes, I know they want to go to the air raid. Figure out how to do that without compromising your biggest asset, which is your O-line. And they shoot themselves in the foot by forcing the ball through their QBs. Tyler Van Dyke is not a running quarterback. You look up his stats in the past, the guy did not run that much. It's not his MO. And here it's only 8 carries, but still, I don't understand what they're doing against. I mean, yeah, they won 28-14. They won relatively comfortably. They were never really down, but this does not portend good things. We'll see. We'll see if we'll see how they evolve and if things come together. But it just feels like they didn't learn anything.
I'll raise another eyebrow at Iowa. I mean, yes, they won 40-0.
Nah,
it was 6-0 at halftime.
There's that.
That's all I.
You
really
are
want to say about
highlighting
that.
the correct thing here. Yes, I'm like it's the kind of thing where it's like you beat Illinois State 40-0. That's how it's supposed to go. It's like that's the normal result here. It's like we've just all been inured to their offense has been so bad. Right. It's like, who knows? Maybe it pretends something. Maybe it doesn't pretend anything at all. Like, we're going to find out. The one other one I would highlight, because we watched it Sunday night, USC, man, they
look good.
Yeah, they do.
If their D is good enough, I mean, again, their defense has been awful the past couple of years, and we talked about Danton Lynn coming in as the new DC. If he just makes that defense okay, that offense is terrifying. Miller Moss, whoa. And Branch, that guy probably is the most electric player in college football right now. I'm glad we don't have to play him. I'm glad we don't have to punt and kick the ball to that guy this season. He's a nightmare. They're going to be a problem. I mean, that sounds, it's like, yeah, duh, they're USC. But I mean, remember, USC's been kind of a star-crossed team because of what's going on the defensive side of the ball. And if they get some of that corrected, they might be right in the thick of this.
Garrett Nussmeier missed one pass in the first half. He was overall 29 of 38 for 304, 8 yards per attempt. He did throw a pick, 2 TDs. They have talent for days in their receiver core. Mason Taylor made some absurd catches. Kyron Lacey had some really good catches, including an amazing touchdown catch for their first score. John Emery was a tackle away from putting LSU up 24-20 at the end. USC's defense held an extremely good offense in check. And it's week 1, and there were some personal fouls and some other crap that LSU was really undisciplined in this game, but that not only did the defense look good, it looked good wrestling a angry tiger. And yikes. Like SC went up way in my head ratings.
Yeah.
I think the other thing too is Miller Moss threw for like 1 billion touchdowns in their bowl game, and in like the transfer portal era, I think people are more inclined to roll eyes at performances like that. But when you immediately follow it with another 378 yards against LSU in the opener, it's like this guy just has been throwing for boatloads of yards and touchdowns since he stepped on the field for USC. So
he made some big boy throws. Ooh,
yeah,
boy.
yeah, they're a problem.
Just to quickly whip through this weekend's schedule. So we play Friday night, 8 o'clock Central on FS1. Already mentioned we're a 2.5-point favorite at the time of recording on Monday night. 38.5-point over-under. Initial weather forecast, 69 degrees. It's going to be a gorgeous evening on Friday. That'll be awesome. Also on Friday, Western Illinois is at Indiana. Going to Saturday, 11 o'clock, Fox, Texas, Michigan. Texas is 7-point road favorite.
I mean, it kind of feels right, but
it's going to be a great game.
Home dogs with a lot of pride. We've seen Texas falter many times in big matchups. Nothing's guaranteed on this one. It's going to be a fun one to watch.
Bowling Green, Penn State. Penn State 34.5. Rhode Island, Minnesota, no line. Akron, Rutgers by 23. Iowa State, Iowa. Iowa 2.5-point favorite, and that one is in Iowa City.
This is the one that will be
right.
I like last week Iowa. I got zero read off of this. Will be a fascinating thing to see.
Yeah. You score 30 points against Iowa State, you'll have my attention. I don't really care about your 40 points against Illinois State.
Michigan State, Maryland. Maryland an 8-point home favorite. You got Eastern Michigan, Washington. We didn't talk about the Washington game in our recaps. They won big at home at Big Ten After Dark now. That's just weird. But they're 27
against Weber State.
Yeah. No, I mean,
yeah. There's nothing here yet.
Yeah, there's no there yet. So they're playing Eastern Michigan on Saturday. Again, same thing. They're a 27.5-point favorite. Wisconsin's playing South Dakota. Illinois is playing Kansas. Kansas a 6-point road favorite in Champaign.
Kansas being less favored than Texas is.
That's a good point.
Oof,
that's a great point.
That's a shocker. It's a shocker.
Yeah, we didn't talk about Illinois' huge win either, but again, they didn't play, stiff competition there. Western Michigan at Ohio State. Ohio State 38.5-point favorite. Colorado, Nebraska 6:30 on NBC. Obviously, the national broadcast wants as much Dion as they can before CU collapses.
I know you hate them, Sam. It was electrically entertaining to watch them against North Dakota.
Oh no, it was wild. That was a fun game.
I mean,
there was a play. So Jimmy Horn Jr. is the slot receiver for Colorado because obviously Travis Henry's on the outside, and Jimmy Horn was getting just about anything he wanted against North Dakota. And there was one play where he straight post into the end zone, and Sanders took the shot, and a North Dakota defender was right there and knocked it down. And as Horn stood up, he looked back upfield and just pointed up, you just put that ball 4 inches higher. And then they show the slow-mo replay a second later, and I'm thinking, my God, if he had just put it 4 inches higher, that's a touchdown.
Yeah.
Easy. These guys, it's not just the speed and the athleticism and all the pump up from Dion is just noise and glitter on the. I'm not interested in any of that. The skill on display between Sanders and Horn and Henry, it's electric.
Absolutely.
And this game is going to be bananas.
I find it so fascinating. I don't even think Colorado is a good football team, but
They have no defense.
Three
No defense.
Unreal football players who no one seems to be able to stop. Who's the fourth?
Maybe
fifth,
four.
sixth?
Shiloh's a pretty darn good safety when he's not taking penalties.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's the thing. Like the two Sanders, but they have no depth. They don't seem very well coached. They seem just kind of like a mess. They were 4 yards away from losing that game, and yet they are just loaded with absolutely electric players. I mean, again, like I think if Branch is one of the most electric, Travis Hunter's one of the other ones. Those are uncoverable guys. And then
you just see like how much bigger Shedeur Sanders is this year than last year.
Yeah, he definitely put.
I mean, he put on meaningful weight. Like I do think they're going to eventually collapse. Sammy, I didn't mean to like step on your like. I think you're forecasting correctly because eventually Henry's going to run out of gas or get hurt, and they have no defense to speak of. But
it was definitely a defense optional game against North Dakota.
Sanders is the real deal, man.
It's really weird to say because this hasn't been the trend, but if you know from our Big Ten previews, I just feel like Nebraska is the better football team here.
I agree. This will be a real test for Raiola, right? Not because that defense is good, but like the atmosphere, the pressure, the intensity, the spotlight. He's never seen anything like it. And if he steps up and goes toe-to-toe with Sanders, my God.
Yeah.
Yep.
You got Boise State, Oregon, 9 p.m. Central. Oregon, a 19.5-point favorite. Utah State, USC. That's your Big Ten After Dark game. USC, a 28.5-point favorite against Utah State.
Oregon, like 19.5-point favorite. Like, yeah,
that's a
we're
relationship.
We're gonna need you to smoke the other team in Idaho in this game, Oregon.
Oregon and Boise. That's not a happy relationship going back. That's been testy.
LeGarrette Blount may have something to add to that comment there.
Yeah,
indeed.
Yeah. I mean, I'll also say, like, I know they only scored 28 against Idaho, but Dylan Gabriel threw for 380 yards. So I tend to think Oregon's going to be just fine, but we'll see.
Any other games nationally you want to mention before we go?
Did Florida State lose tonight?
They sure did.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Number 10 is 0-2, and seemed like probably just coming apart at the seams. And then I mean, like, can we?
Florida and Florida State are both imploding this year. It's kind of fascinating to watch.
You know who else got flattened? The Clemson Tigers.
Oh yeah,
destroyed.
You have any thoughts on that, Scott?
Destroyed. Well deserving.
Yeah.
Anything else though? I mean, I'm just sort of skimming through the Texas-Michigan game is the big game of the day. There's a reason both ESPN and Fox are taking their pregame shows there. I mean, Tennessee...
That's so weird, dueling pregame shows on the same campus. That's just a real weird...
It happens more often.
These guys
than
all
you
figure
think
out broadcast rights. Can't they figure out this part? Like, somebody isn't going to go to Colorado, Nebraska? For real?
Well, that one's on NBC. I mean, that's like...
Oh, okay. I guess that crew will be there. All right, fair enough. I don't know. Maybe there's no other really hype game to go check out.
Tennessee, NC State is two ranked teams. That's the ABC evening game.
Yeah, I'm really not. Yeah, I mean, beyond that, I'm not seeing. I mean, El Assico. Well, our attention will be on that game. I mean, we'll be paying attention to that. But there's not a heck of a lot. There is one other game in the interest of a soft pivot that I very much do want to talk about, because there is, in addition to Michigan, Texas, a titanic matchup of two top 10 teams this weekend. And that is the Northwestern University Wildcat field hockey team hosting the Duke University Blue Devils. That is Friday morning at 11 a.m. That's your Northwestern Wildcats, your number one field hockey team in the country. Number one ranked team in the country that, as we all know, came as close as you can come to a national title without winning a national title last season. You listened to our preview with Lauren Wattis. You know about this. They're hosting Duke, just like football is. But the Duke field hockey teams coming in number 5 in the nation. These were the number 2 and number 3 teams in the nation in the final field hockey poll last year. This is a huge game. Okay, 11 a.m. I am going to be there. I encourage anyone who's on campus or near campus, come out and watch this field hockey team. It's a huge way to start this game. We talked about, make a day back on campus, but if you're around, you're going to be going to football at night. Go to field hockey in the morning. We put up a photo of it. The whole backside of these expanded stands for football, they put this whole section of dedicated field hockey seats. They're incredible. They're like seats and they have views of it looks unbelievable. Like everything they did for the football expansion also has major benefits to field hockey. And this is the first test. The Cats have stomped on 2 teams from the Northeast. I think, who is it? Was it Maine and UMass, I believe? And now comes the huge test. So come out Friday morning at 11 a.m. And sit in these awesome new stands, this awesome temporary facility, and watch our incredible field hockey team.
Yeah, absolutely. That'll be a ton of fun, and I'm psyched that you're able to go to that and check it out. It's going to be great. Anything else to mention before we get out of here?
I had wanted to get my soapbox about something, but we're going pretty long, so I'm gonna hold off on it. But I'll just say this, and this was kind of like, I'll say the positive end of this topic is like, I can't emphasize enough. Obviously, we had so much fun at the game. The Cats won. The views were beautiful. It's not just views and vibes at this stadium. Like, this is going to be a meaningful home field advantage for us. It's going to have a huge impact to the fan mix, like we've talked in the past, and not letting thousands of Badger fans in. But I really want to hit home something that I think was really missing from the value equation over the summer as people were talking about this, and maybe as some of Northwestern administrators were evaluating the financials, et cetera. Like, not just the Northwestern game on Saturday, but across all the people in this country that watch college football, in the world that watch college football, there was essentially a free advertisement for not Northwestern football, not Northwestern's football stadium, the beauty and the uniqueness of Northwestern's campus. And by extension, the relationship to the city of Chicago, Lake Michigan, just the beauty that we all know and have loved for years and years and years as NU alums and fans. But you can't buy that kind of publicity, folks. It reminds me of when Northwestern went to the Rose Bowl in '95 and applications went up like 300% the next year.
Yeah, mine was one of those.
And the administration was like, oh, free marketing is good. Administration that also oversees like one of the best business schools in the world. I can't emphasize it enough. I get it. Football shouldn't run a university. I believe that, bar none. And there's a lot of reasons that like administrations and athletic departments get into horn locking situations and whatnot. But like, let's be open-minded and thoughtful about the bigger picture and put on our Northwestern hat, not our individual piece of Northwestern that we oversee hats, because this was a colossal victory for the entire university, not just the sports departments. And I think it's been a real missing piece of the overall narrative of what's been going on with Northwestern and with this build over the summer, et cetera. So
Amen.
The same thing's going to be true on Friday. So like, enjoy it. Every person in your life as a Northwestern fan who's, they're going to reach out and talk to you about like, whoa, that looks so cool, blah, 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 blah. Like you can't buy this kind of stuff. So like, there's a huge value to that. And like, let's steer into it, folks, and lap it up while we can. Like to your point earlier, John, right? Just enjoy this amazing thing in the moment.
We get so used to not taking for granted, but so used to our own situation and so used to maybe even an understanding of like people in the Midwest or the Chicago area, all the alums for all the other Big Ten schools being in Chicago and knowing Chicago's Big Ten school and blah, 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 right? So many people in the nation, especially younger people, watched that drone shot and went, holy shit, there's a college there? Like, that's the power Scuzz is talking about. It's the brand and showing off everything that's awesome about this university.
Well, and those of you listening to this podcast don't need us to tell you this, right? Like y'all have been dialed in on this. You're excited about this team, stadium, whatever. But point being, for every Northwestern person that you know or come into contact with that is not a diehard Northwestern football fan or is not like viewing this maybe in this, just share this perspective of what a boon this was for capital N Northwestern, not football, NU Sports, etc., to get this spotlight and to have this unique situation that frankly is going to go on for the next 2 months. This is not one and done. They're going to be talking about this across, up until our last game against Wisconsin in October.
One thing I'll piggyback on this just to everything we've talked about. Friday night, tailgate opens at 4 p.m. We're going to be there. Tailgate's going to be set up at 4 p.m. right in the thick of it. I will be there. Sam will, if not there at 4, Sam's going to be getting there. We're going to, we will have food. We will have beverages. Any contribution is welcome. Come visit us. If you want to make a donation to the tailgate, we would accept it. But if there's a tailgate dish you prepare, there is a spot for it on the table. If you want to bring a beverage, there's a spot for it in the cooler. We welcome everything, but we've also got something for you. So feel free to just show up and bring your company, and we'll feed you and give you something to drink.
Yeah, once again,
if only the transfer portal could transfer me there.
Once again, we'll be in the lot just west of Tech.
Proper name, Sammy.
The West Tech lot.
Thank you.
There it is. Sheridan and Noyes.
We got a note from official people with that moniker, and so I think we've made it. We've made it happen.
I was trying to give it a little context before I just named it.
Okay,
I mean,
fair.
just
fair.
We're there. It's the West Tech lot, but just to give a little context. But yeah. So on that note, we'll go ahead and leave it there for tonight. Head to our website, westlotpirates.com, where you can leave comments and questions. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube now, where we posted a fun little post-game vibes video. And, keep an eye out for maybe some more of those as we move along. And you can always email the show, westlotpirates@gmail.com. Tune in next time as we give our visceral and statistical views on Northwestern athletics. And look for us in the West Tech lot of Martin Stadium flying the red pirate flag, because we give no quarter, especially the fourth. For John Lacombe and Eric Skasbo, I'm Sam Walter. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next time.